Hello and welcome to SuperStree Women in the Startup Ecosystem, the show that talks about the journey, challenges, and the path ahead for women in the startup ecosystem. We put light to make women realize that no less than sky is the limit for them in this emerging world of startups. I'm your host, Aprajita Seni. SuperStree Women in the Startup Ecosystem is a podcast series by Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, that is DPIIT. DPIIT is a central government department under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Startup India is a flagship initiative by DPIIT intended to build a strong ecosystem for nurturing innovation and startups in the country that will drive sustainable economic growth and create large-scale employment opportunities. My guest for today is an institution in herself. She has been working for women's rights for many years and has time and again provided equal opportunities to women through her own ventures. She is one of the most successful women entrepreneurs in the country and has been a recipient of multiple prestigious awards such as Femina Achievers Award, Devi Award, and the Cartier Award. Please welcome Ms. Sairee Chahal, founder and CEO Sheroes. Hi Sairee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here.
Sairee, we see that the seeds of entrepreneurship were sown early in your life. And in 1999, you and a couple of friends started Newslink Services, India's first magazine for mariners. How confident were you while starting your own startup when the word startup was not even that popular?
Absolutely. So, first of all, I didn't even know this is what is called a startup in the first place. We were just building something, and I didn't know a lot of things that I know today. I didn't even know what I was getting into. And it started with a lot of serendipity. I ended up meeting this team, basically a guy named Deepak Kamran, who was an ex Merchant Navy veteran, and there's a Vietnam War veteran named George Hoyt. And these guys had sailed all their life. And they said, look, we've sailed all our lives, we had great careers, but sailor depression is a big industry problem. We've suffered from it and we want to solve it. So at heart, it was still about solving a problem. So we built the company as the world's first newspaper for mariners. And it did very well. I think a little bit of beginner's luck did play out. The market was nothing of what it is today. We ended up building 3 offices, starting with Delhi, then one in Cyprus, one in Philippines. It was a remote setup in 99 2000. Of course, none of the WhatsApps of the world existed, but we used to use ICQ and other form of messaging. So the company did really well. We got to about 2/3 of the industry. We were one of its kind, and the company also got sold. And it's only later I discovered selling the company is called an exit. So very different, naive times, age of innocence, if I may say, but huge learning curve. I think my real school is Newslink. That's where I learned my ropes.
It just sounds so incredible to know about this journey, the way you mentioned about innocence. So, Second Chance and Fleximoms was started with the primary objective of providing employment opportunities to women. So, what was the idea behind starting Sheroes and how did it come into play?
Yeah. So, look, I think one of the beneficiaries of doing a startup is you become a lot more clued into the world around you. I became very clued into the world of consumer internet, technology. Of course, first generation of companies were being built around me. So Naukri, Make My Trip, 197 were all companies being built at the same time. Right. And I think it was evidently clear by the time, a decade passed from Newslink and I had sort of, gone further in my career, that women are getting left out. So for example, if I went to, let's say, a conference that was in the evening, very oddly, you would be like one of the few women in the room. And as you progress in your career, this happens a lot. You end up being outnumbered. You start at an equal footing. And of course, our generation was the doctor engineer generation. Everybody had a big degree. Everybody studied hard. But women were sort of falling off the map. And they still are falling off the map. Unfortunately, India's women workforce numbers haven't really added up, So it was very clear that internet is where all our lives are going to play out. We're going to buy on the internet, we're going to be entertained on the internet, we're going to bring our banking online. All our lives are moving there. And my assumption was very simple. Hey, in a gender poor country, can we do 2 plus 2? Can we use this to benefit a lot more women? So it started with a very small idea at Fleximoms that sort of became a bigger idea with Sheroes. And the idea was to build like a platform where women could bring their aspirations, they could chase their career goals, they could find advice, they could find community. And of course, we went out and, also created partnerships with, companies to create, special initiatives around that. So it started at a very small sort of level. And of course, the good thing is we're a beneficiary of a market that's grown, right? So Shiro started in a market where, women were online only in metros. This is pretty much the early phase of smartphones. Most people didn't even have, laptops maybe, or even if they did, internet penetration was not so high. And over a period of time, of course, a lot more women have come online, and today we exist in a very different avatar. So today we exist as a network that supports women in all sorts of goals: entrepreneurial goals, personal goals, employment goals, and of course, it's built as a large community. We're a multi asset network, we own different assets, and about 25 million women found a place on Sheroes, and it continues to grow. We also built a very interesting innovation. We started a helpline, it's called Ask Sheroes, and you could come in and speak about anything. You could find help around relationships, career, maybe you're facing a difficult situation. So that became a very big hit. Over 3 million women have used that counseling service, and it's a free service. So there's a huge sort of network effect there. So yeah, we've been at it, but I think as we have evolved, the market has evolved. So I think we're just trying to keep up with each other. And of course, I think where we sit today, it still feels like we're just getting started.
What is the story behind Mahila Money, which is an initiative that provides small loans to women micro entrepreneurs? Is there any specific incident that pushed you to starting this initiative?
Yeah. So look, I think as a founder, I know capital is the biggest catalyst, right? And we're also a country where microfinance really did well. The Amul movement did well. Putting money in hands of women in this country has played out really well, and we are like actually the playbook to the world here. So this was always on my mind. And then COVID came, and COVID is a time of distress for a lot of people. A lot of families lost incomes, a lot of people lost their loved ones. So we saw the same distress in our community. And I guess it really started by me putting in, personal 5 lakh rupees to say, let's just give it out as loans. And obviously, if it comes back, we may have something here. And of course, I, as a founder, didn't come from financial services. So we did line up like a solid team to, help us build this. But look, what's also happened is today, everybody in India is an entrepreneur because they all have a phone, they all have a UPI, they all have social media. It doesn't matter what you sell. You could be selling clothes, you could be selling services, you could be running a beauty parlor, you could be running a home based business. And we know these entrepreneurs exist in every nook and corner, in your colony WhatsApp groups, in every part of the country. So, in some ways, the woman we're serving is Sridevi in English. She has a business, but she's very invisible. Nobody thinks of her as a real business because like she's not sort of tom-toying it. She's not probably structured like an SMB. She doesn't fall under a lot of parameters of business. But look, she has a customer base. She's, transacting. She's selling a service or a good. So that really led us to build Mahila Money. And the vision for Mahila Money is to create a base for women entrepreneurs to succeed, especially with capital. So today, of course, we're a country where Shark Tank India is playing out. But who does this person go to before she gets onto Shark Tank India? The first 20 lakhs that you need to grow a business, where do you go? So that's what we're really doing. And we're hoping that, so as times have changed, we've learned that a lot of our potential lies in making entrepreneurs succeed. So while with Sheroes, we did everything around giving them support, giving them resources, giving them employment, giving them community, we still want handing out money, and we still want sort of writing those checks. So we're putting more skin in the game, and we're saying, hey, we'll go all in. And we're now an ecosystem that supports women with employment, with entrepreneurship, and access to capital. And when you zoom it out a little bit, now imagine 100 million women go through this in the next 5-6 years. Can you just imagine how much of GDP impact it's going to have? So we think this can become a very powerful play, and we got to like stick to it and do it, because we're a country that's beaming with entrepreneurship right now. Everybody has an idea, everybody wants to go all in, and it doesn't matter where they live. The physical barriers have gone away. Yeah, so we're excited about that. And of course, we are also doing other financial products like savings or investments, helping more and more women entrepreneurs become highly financially stable and sort of find their own feet. But a lot of our focus is building capital.
Understood. So it's more about empowering women to take the ownership of their own lives.
Own life, own businesses, right? I think, for example, if you're a small business owner today, it's very hard for you to find capital. Either, the bank will say, go bring your husband, or they'll say, bring your father. And they'll say, like, aapke naam pe to kuch nahi hai. So, and which very likely the case, right? And it's very hard for a large institution to underwrite her. But because this is a woman who trusts us and has a relationship with us, she knows that, this is the place. So, for example, one of the promises we make is, this loan is your loan. It's got nothing to do with any member of your family. We trust you completely, and we're willing to take a bet on you.
That trust is very much needed. I think a little push is all we need.
A little push, absolutely. And the thing is, it's also in a community, right? Let's say you run a beauty parlor in Nagpur and I run a beauty parlor in Ambala. And we both got loans and we both exchanged our stories because we're in the same platform. It's very powerful, right? And and then we can share like which is the good product to buy, which is good equipment to buy. And it's just more and more of ecosystem building. And look, I think we all know ecosystems like Silicon Valley came around because that's what they did. They catalyzed entrepreneurship. They put in capital in hands of people, but they also got like-minded people together. They built platforms where engagement and interaction could happen. And we're doing this for a woman who's today very invisible. She's really like, of course, everyone wants to sell to her, but I think nobody wants to take a bet on her. And, we're the ones who want to do that.
Which brings me to another point, how things change for women post marriage, especially in India.
Yeah.
How has your journey been? If you could share your experiences with our audience on how you have managed your career and your life in general.
We are a complex country, and also I think we're a country that's undergoing a sort of a transition. I mean, we used to be this joint family country that's now probably nuclear family, but COVID brought some of us back to our hometowns. And I think unsaid part of this whole equation is that women are primary caregivers in this country. So whether it's elders at home, whether it's children, whether you have pets, even plants for that matter, I think women do a lot of heavy lifting there. And of course, it kind of goes under recognized in a lot of places. So the reason we are seeing a lot of women take to entrepreneurship because it allows them the flexibility, And unfortunately, small town India still doesn't have the big corporate opportunities that one would like. Our distribution is not equal in terms of opportunities. And I think it's changing a little bit. Attitudes are changing a little bit. The gender conversation, at least I have seen, grow a lot in last couple of years. And I think we're still midway. We're still sort of building upon it. For example, the whole conversation around sharing the load, or things like paternity leave, or things like just sort of, a lot more young women taking charge of their careers early on, lot more women building companies very early on in their lives. So I think these changes are happening. But at the same time, we still have a large population of women, say 150 million women who are married, who are educated, who are online and have potential. Are we not going to do anything about it? So we do think that's where a lot of latent sort of potential lies.
So, Sairee, from time to time, you've started your own ventures to provide equal opportunities to women in one sector or the another, be it via Sheroes or Second Chance. What do you think is not going right for women, or what could be done better for women in the country?
I think we have a lot of lessons to learn from countries who got to amazing levels of gender equality, high GDP growth, huge participation of women in workforce. And Scandinavian countries obviously lead the pack. Norway, Sweden, Finland, they've done amazingly well. So one of the things I think a chapter for India to look at is gender policy. So when you're building a policy or when you're budgeting, adding a gender filter to it and having that as a filter is something we could look at as a country. We are a country which produces the maximum number of women graduates in the world. Our women enrollments in colleges, in MBA schools is constantly going up. In schools, it's going up, which means we have a lot of women ready to be part of the economic mainstream. What we need to do is to make sure our entire ecosystem of public policy, governance, and private sector makes use of this pool. And to be able to do that, we need to build what we call gender budgeting, gender policy, gender frameworks in public policy. And I think that will give a huge impetus to making sure we become a gender equal country.
You once said nobody in India is raised to be an entrepreneur. We're all raised to do jobs and have security. So, how, via your initiatives or through your ventures, are you trying to falsify the statement?
I know. I actually can't believe that, like sometimes when I do like a logic check of my life, there is nothing logical that says, you could have become an entrepreneur or you could have done, you could have come this far. And I guess a lot of it is happenstance, and it did play out, but we're in a very lucky time in history. Like I did see all of us go from Hotmail to Gmail, I think, and of course, like there's just a lot that we've seen in our lifetimes already, and we're going to see more and more. We're just about sort of, who would have thought, like, UPI would become so common, or this is how India would lead the payments revolution. I would have never imagined this a decade ago, or even 5 years ago for that matter. So I think a lot of happenstance played out, but you're right. I think we as a country still are seeded in security, family safety, and rightly so. Entrepreneurship is rough, it's uneven. We're not a country where there's a lot of social security or welfare. So if you're unemployed, you're not going to go and get benefits, right? So everyone's on their own. And we're a populated country. So for every job, there are like, thousands of people. So I guess I get where that comes from, but it's also good to see the change that we are witnessing as we are seeing entrepreneurship is going mainstream more than ever before, which is, I think, a super healthy sign. I definitely would have, like in every room that I have been, I've mostly been an exception, the odd one out. And I guess that was really like the background to building, a few years ago. But I don't think that's the case anymore, or at least, it's changing dramatically. And I hope it, continues to like evolve really fast, because we need problem solvers, we need job creators, and we need smart people working on hard problems in this country.
Fair. And you've recently been appointed as the board of directors at Paytm Payments Bank. Uh, how do you foresee the future of fintech, of finance and technology in India? And how do you foresee women's role in shaping the sector? As well as what is your take on what could be done more to promote women in tech?
Well, I think we're all here because everything is on rails, right? Everything is on digital rails. India's building a digital stack. Being on a bank board is actually a learning opportunity for a entrepreneur like me who's built in consumer all her life. But it's also an opportunity for me to bat for financial inclusion, because we are still a country where less than 10% of all loans go to women. We're still a country where women's participation in, let's say, mutual funds or savings is marginal. We have huge upside waiting for that. But the other part of this whole story is a lot of work India has done is bringing people on board. So we started with one account for every woman. We have number of schemes, and we're of course the country that built microfinance. We built that playbook, and that playbook got exported to so many countries. I guess now it's time to really digitize that stack. The playbook of microfinance needs to come online, because the user has come online, she has a UPI, she's sort of very familiar, she's an entrepreneur, and we need to build more products and services for the nano entrepreneur, for the micro entrepreneur, for Sridevi in English. So we got to do a lot of this. And I guess if we're going to build a lot of technology for women, guess who we need to build, right? We need more and more women in the room, because already the world, especially the industrial world, pretty much was men designing a world for themselves, so they designed everything that worked for them, and here we are. But when we are building our digital rails, when we are building for 1 billion users, half of them are women, we should be very cognizant about inclusion. We should make sure that we include everybody. Women is obviously a large construct of that, but everybody else. Other reason is this is good for the country, because if you're going to be an engine firing on all cylinders, you can't work 50% capacity. India produces more women graduates than any other country in the world, which means our talent is enormous. Our aspirations are enormous at this point in time. We just need to give them the right tools. And of course, financial inclusion, access to capital, women's access to financial products all play a huge role in making this happen. So both financial inclusion and financial services, as well as women building tech for a large base of users, are, I think, the natural right thing to do at this point in time.
Yeah, inclusive India, our vision for an inclusive India.
Absolutely.
So now we head on to a very interesting part of the episode, a quick rapid fire question round. Best book,
Simple Abundance by Sarah Ben Bretnard.
favorite author,
Roald Dahl these days.
best quote,
If not us, then who? If not now, then when?
favorite influencer,
Anuaga, somebody I've loved and admired all my life, ever since I was a child.
favorite food,
Dal chawal.
your go-to pastime,
Yoga, walks, dog and cat.
Sairee's role model,
Lots of role models. Ilaben, Maya Angelou. Sheroes is named after Maya Angelou's poetry, so personally very close to me.
a quality you value the most in a person.
Persistence.
How would you like to be remembered?
A simple, honest person who worked hard.
This brings us to the end of the show, and I just want to ask you if you could share the top 3 advice for our budding women entrepreneurs.
Well, as a founder, I can tell you this is a long journey, so get help. Don't give up on your dreams, dream big, and take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, Sairee, for joining us today and for sharing your remarkable journey with us. It was our pleasure to have you on SuperStree. On that note, I, Aprajita, would like to say goodbye. We would be back with another episode of SuperStree Women in the Startup Ecosystem, powered by Startup India DPIIT. Till then, dear ladies, keep dreaming, setting goals, and staying determined to achieve what you desire. Thank you.